let's talk about some news, by the way.
No. Let's continue on this. Thing.
Is this like an alternative health podcast now? It's crazy.
I mean,
yeah, sometimes,
this is a riveting conversation.
Speaking of Asles les Chapes, let's talk about the Christians who are the Christians out there who took on Portland, stood in Antifa's face, and took a lot of abuse for it. Now, President Trump or the White House has now said, not Seattle, not I assume it's Portland, or not Portland.
They have a similar vibe right now, but it's Seattle.
Yeah. What's the woke city in Seattle? What can I think of it?
Portland.
Seattle is the woke city in Washington.
Right. Seattle, Portland. Yeah.
Portland, Oregon.
I was like, Portland's in Oregon. That's why I was like,
you're just writing off that whole coast. You're like, it's lost. I don't need it.
It's garbage. Yeah. Apparently, the White House has now sent word that said the city of Seattle is being officially investigated by the feds for targeting Christians. That's on Twitter via Brandy Cruz. Who knows if that's true or not? You can't really say, given it's Twitter. There's a lot of people that say breaking, and then they make something up, and then they print money. But I mean, the attacks are real.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are calling it the Summer of Love 2.0. I wouldn't go that far. I think, Antifa is smaller and weaker than ever, in my opinion, at least here in the United States, or at least they've kind of gone back underground. I think attacking Christians is probably a big mistake. What do you two make of this?
I was there for a lot of the crazy riots that were happening in those specific areas, and they got pretty hairy. They got pretty wild. I think we're very far away from those kind of major street clashes that we saw, but we got a kind of glimpse into how it was within the last few days, and it's interesting to see, Christians coming together, and then these like leftoid liberals freaking out and assaulting and beating them up. And
bad move, right? I think optically very bad.
Yeah, the videos that we saw were horrible. Like people were getting,
they're just getting pummeled. Yeah,
and in many of these instances, like the Battle of Berkeley and all these other ones, police officers didn't want to get involved. They just kind of stood by, and they allowed a lot of the violence to happen here. And as soon as I saw this, I'm like, yeah, there's probably going to be some action here by the Trump administration, because it's pretty blatant, like physical assaults, and they could say it's racketeering, they could say it's a conspiracy, they could say there could be a whole bunch of charges that
it's
are
certainly coordinated
against people, doing this and organizing in a way to stop people from expressing their Christian values.
Yeah, I think Seattle's kind of a weird city because there are a couple cities that I think have tried to define themselves as like the most welcoming to LGBTQ whatever issues. And they believe that by doing so, they become kind of untouchable. But for that side of the political spectrum, there's sort of never enough. It's one thing to say like, oh, we have some rainbow flags everywhere, to basically coming out and in my interpretation, defending protesters who are going after religious groups. I mean, that's really what's going on with the mayor of Seattle right now. I think the religious groups are going into hostile territory, and in some ways that is provocative. On the other hand, I think there are a lot of people in the U.S. who are frustrated by this blanket tolerance for radical progressive stances and the treatment of religious people as an underclass in society.
Well, I think, Luke, what do you make of we've seen a little bit of this punished Trump, whether it's calling out the systematic erasure of the white Afrikaners in South Africa. We've seen how he's dealt with, and in his words, anti-Semitism. Again, I have my opinions. I love that he's defunding these universities, but I wish he was using a different,
I wish he would actually go after them for racial discrimination.
Right. Or radicalization.
Against whites and Asians.
Right. He has plenty of other good reasons. I don't like the anti-Semitism thing, but
you're not going to see me rallying for Harvard and the Jeffrey Epstein alum and the Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Yeah. I'm fine. I don't like it, but I'm worried about other stuff right now. you know, what do you make of? I absolutely love Trump just ripping funding. He's talked about this in regards to like sanctuary cities. Like these cities require hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds every year. If Trump just expands saying like, you know what? Nah, we're not going to do that. Like, I think that can be very effective.
Yeah, 110%. I mean, there's so many states that rely on federal funding. He just threatened the state of California with cutting a lot of their funding because there was it person that competed in a women's sports.
Yeah, I love
that was winning all the first place awards, and he says, "Hey, stop this, or else we're cutting the funding." I think, listen, you cut all the funding now. You don't use it as a threat. You cut it. There's no reason why my money should be going there. There should be a more serious conversation about balancing the budget. Elon Musk just came out and talked about how Trump's kind of undoing everything that he did with Deutsche. And that's true with the big, beautiful bill that the members of Congress and Senate are just butchering. And I hate these omnibus bills. I hate all this. But there's a serious conversation to be had here about us not subsidizing these states and these liberal woke institutions that clearly are racist, clearly do discriminate against people, and clearly push on orthodoxies that are against our norms, our values, and our country. I think it's enough. Like, listen, we don't have enough money. Sorry. We're spending too much money. Yeah, I'm okay with not giving more money to California. I'm okay with not giving money to any of these states because that's what should happen.
And look, I'll throw this to Hannah Claire too, but like, let's say it was a conservative state, Texas or Arkansas or something like that, and we saw the same level of persecution against, let's say, blacks, or I would support ripping their federal funding too. Like, it's this weird, like, taboo to say that there's anything anti-white or Christian. We see this every day in Hollywood, right? They'll make jokes at Christians' expenses all day, but I challenge you to make a joke about Muslims.
Yeah.
For a long time, any like defense of Christianity, which isn't an exclusively white thing, or any defense of like, white people would just get you lumped in and be called like a supremacist or whatever. What do you make of like that appearing at least to be changing at least a little bit?
I think it's good. I mean, I have always felt like it's America that creates this weird double standard and encourages white guilt. I mean, obviously, white people are ultimately in the global minority, but in America, we get the narrative like white people have always held positions of power and they are controlling everything. While you want people of all races to live peacefully together and work together, cooperate, have shared values, I think you can't deny that America has a European history, and so to then suddenly have this like generations of generations being taught that, it's okay to treat this one group of people differently because of their race. Doesn't that seem like the thing that you were also saying we shouldn't do? It's very weird. I think that the problem, I mean, for me, I don't really believe that there are very few things that are well managed by the federal bureaucracy, and therefore they should be in charge of the majority of the money. I generally think that it's better for money, the majority of, if you have to have taxes and collect them from the people, it should be managed at the state level. States are much closer to the people. In America, states are roughly the size of most European nations, definitely some Asian nations. And so why would they not be able to better leverage the needs of the people against their budgets? Instead, we have this like extraordinary bloat in Washington that has spilled over into Maryland and Northern Virginia because it's just massively growing all the time. And to what end? Do people feel like they're better served by the federal government? No. In fact, every 4 years we fight about how the federal government is not very good. Mm-hmm. So it just seems like this is obvious. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but it seems stupid to me that you can have universities like Harvard who are simultaneously requiring federal money and then also requiring students to take out federally backed student loans. Over 90% of student loans in America are issued by the federal government. So your system is completely non-fundable without support from this outside taxpayer supplied source. but yet it's not equal access to all taxpayers. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I have a friend who actually goes to one of these like top universities in Boston. And then she specifically described to me a situation that I found wild. To be even entered into admissions into these colleges.
Is she Asian?
You have to write a statement of how you're going to propel equity and diversity. You literally have to write a whole written essay saying, I am diverse and I will promote equity. It's like those just Chinese communistic cultural revolution type of forced confessions. So you automatically have to declare your wokeness just to be allowed to be in those colleges. That right there is just insanity. The left has hijacked these quote institutions of higher learning, cut all their funding, cut all their racist discriminatory policies. We don't need them. It's fine. We could finance and go our own way here without literally financing our own destruction.
Yeah, I mean, I love ripping the funding. I think Trump pulled the last $100 million from Harvard. First of all, I think I talked about this yesterday. Like, I did not know how much of my tax dollars were going to these universities. So I'm like very happy to see that go away. And this idea that you can't discriminate against white people or Christians, that also needs to go away, because there's a million examples every day. Like Luke said, Harvard explicitly admitted this, got sanctioned by the Supreme Court, and said, we're not stopping it. Mm-hmm. So, like, why should they get tax dollars?
Right. And if it's accepting taxpayer money, it seems odd that then it also gets to have a fee-based admissions system where they can deny all kinds of people. I mean, I know people are mad that Trump is pausing international student visas. I actually don't think that's ridiculous. Like,
I love that.
Every American is ultimately indirectly funding these universities. Shouldn't they be able to say, well, then we get to be first in line? I know not every university is going to accept every student. Obviously, they're only so big, but it seems like a system that's really gotten away from us. It seems broken, and I'm glad somebody wants to do something about it.
What's that
Trump
saying?
Just made a comment about this. I sent you the video in the private chat. It's about 1 minute and 23 seconds long.
I'll pull it up.
He just addressed this topic that we're talking about now.
He had what is it? A little at a time and then all at once. Is that saying? Like, that's how it seems these universities and these woke states have kind of just gotten completely out of control. Here's Trump talking about it.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? Do you foresee?
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. You know, I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where do these people come from? So we have to
foreign countries in the desert.
Look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting.
What do you two make of basically he's ripping this money because Harvard's refusing to like dox their students, their H-1Bs. I don't have any problem with this. I mean, they have a visa, so shouldn't they have to share their information? Like, I don't have any problem with it.
I just think Harvard's trying to act like they are the underdog fighting Trump, right? Like, there always has to be a Trump is the big bad bully narrative, and we are on the correct side of history, sheltering advocates for whatever or doing the right thing, and he's blustering around. And ultimately, I think Harvard is acting without actual thought for how the money comes in. I think they believe, everyone involved in the executive leadership of Harvard believes they are better than Donald Trump, and therefore they believe they are better than the millions of people that voted for him. And I just hate that. I think that's so arrogant.
And coincidentally, his approval rate right now is at an all-time high. It's like as high as it was on January 20th, 57%.
We got to get the messaging. We got to get the messaging out there that we need Harvard to also disclose their personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We need to find out why he had offices at their universities and what kind of scientific experiments they were collaborating with and working on.
Yeah,
I want to know if Harvard has any cases of assaults and any abuse allegations against.
Well, did you see one of their scientists just got involved for selling body parts? One of their graduates. Another graduate just had to resign in shame for a massive she fabricated data in a study. So they've got plenty. A tenured
professor, first time it's been revoked since I think the 1940s.
So I think why Harvard also is not trying to release the student visa information to the federal government is because the federal government is already spending very limited ICE resources on investigating these kids and asking them and looking into them to see if they criticized a particular country in the Middle East. And if they did,
wait, what country is that? What country is that, Luke?
I don't know. I think they're connected to some of the tunnel systems you were talking about.
Oh, is that what you're saying? We can't talk about that? Yeah,
But I think this is why Harvard is saying, I don't want to release the data because the government is just going to investigate these kids, and if they have opinions that are critical, not of just the U.S., but I don't think the U.S. is even a consideration here. But if they're critical of a country in the Middle East, they're going to have their visas ended immediately, and I think that's why they're saying no.
Yeah, Hannah Claire, what country was that again? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember.
You were always talking about it, but
in the private chat, you go off on them all the time.
You're spamming it like crazy. I'm one quick way. I'll end this segment here, but obviously the quickest way to deal with this is just deport them all. Like deport them all and let them reapply through a better process, or not at all. How about that?